In the last few videos, we've looked at different angles of consciousness, how it fades, where it begins, and why it's so hard to define. But so far, we've stayed outside the experience. And today's video asks, what if we studied consciousness from the inside? That's the idea behind neurophenomenology. You'll find the full breakdown, like studies, methods, all of it, in the Substack article linked below. We've learned a lot about the brain. We can scan it, model it, map which parts light up when we remember, focus, or feel pain. But one thing still doesn't quite hit. We don't know how those signals become experience. We don't know how to study what it feels like to be in the moment, not just as a brain activity, but as a lived experience. And that's the strange part. We're studying consciousness without asking what it is like to be conscious. Most of science works from the outside in. We measure behavior, we track brain activity, we time how long it takes to press a button or recognize a face, but that tells us how we act, not how it feels to act. Not what it's like in that split second before the decision or the flicker of awareness just before the thought appears. And this is often called the explanatory gap, a space between what the brain does and what the mind feels like. And this is where neurophenomenology comes in. Neurophenomenology is a fancy word for something kind of simple. It says if you want to understand consciousness, you need to study both sides of it, what the brain is doing and what the person is experiencing. The term was coined by Francisco Varela, a neuroscientist trained in both biology and phenomenology. He believed consciousness wasn't a glitch in a system. It was the very thing science was ignoring on principle. One of his big ideas? We can study it if we stop pretending it isn't there. Neurophenomenology brings two worlds together. First, there is phenomenology, a branch of philosophy that looks closely at how we experience the world from the first-person point of view. Then there is neuroscience, the study of what the brain is doing at a physical level. Normally, those two don't mix, but neurophenomenology says maybe they should mix. What if your description of experience could help interpret your brain scan? What if tracking your attention or emotion in real time made the neural data more meaningful? Turns out describing your experience is trickier than it sounds. Most of us spend more time narrating what happened than actually noticing how it unfolded. Unless you're trying to fall asleep, in which case your brain suddenly becomes excellent at replaying awkward moments in vivid detail. To help with this, researchers use something called a micro-phenomenological interview. It was developed by Petitmengin, a student of Varela, and it's a structured way of helping people walk through their own experience, second by second. They're asked questions like, what did you notice just before you felt the urge to act? Where was your attention? Did anything shift in your body? The idea is to map the shape of experience, and then, if brain data is available, like EEG for example, researchers can match up what was felt with what was firing. Petitmengin used this method with people who have temporal lobe epilepsy. Clinically, seizures are treated as abrupt. 1 minute you're fine, the next you're not. But when patients described their experience in detail, a different picture appeared. They reported rising tension in the body, a narrowing of visual awareness, a sense of emotional distance, and distortions in the flow of time. These signs came before anything showed up on a brain scan. In other words, their lived experience picked up on something the EEG hadn't yet caught. Turns out, your nervous system might be better at early warnings than your smartwatch. This doesn't mean neurophenomenology explains consciousness, but it does tell us something important. Experience has structure, and that structure can be studied. With the right tools, first-person reports aren't vague stories. They are rich, time-based data that can inform neuroscience, not just complement it. It also suggests something bigger, that the mind isn't locked inside the skull. It's shaped by what we notice, what we feel, and how we move through the world. Most brain science starts from the outside, stimulus in, behavior out. Neurophenomenology says, let's try starting from the inside for once. What did it feel like? What happened in your awareness before you acted? And how does that match what the brain was doing? It's not a final answer, but it might be the first time both sides of the story get told. If you are enjoying this series, feel free to subscribe. Next up, dolphins. Do they have a sense of self? Or maybe even tell stories?